An adjustable rate mortgage, or ARM, or ARM, is referred to as sometimes an adjustable or a variable rate mortgage, a loan where the interest rate periodically adjusts. Now, it has some moving parts to it. The index, the margins, and the caps on an ARM describe how often, how much, what's the measurement of each adjustment. So ARMs will start off with an initial interest rate and payment. The initial interest rate and payment amount on an ARM remain in effect for that individual, specified, specific, limited period of time. That limited period of time can range from a month to years, depending on what index you're using to tie that interest rate to. With most ARMs, the interest rate and the monthly payment can change every month, quarter, year, 3, 5, 7, 10-year period of time. That period between rate changes is called the adjustment period. Okay, so ARMs have two moving parts to them, the index and the margin. Index and margin can both move independently of each other until the loan is closed. Once a loan is locked or closed, then the margin stays the same and the index could continue to move up or down. So let's put some names to these things. Well, let's call the index the cost of credit, and then let's call the margin the profit that the lender wants to make on the loan. So indexes will fluctuate. They will move up and down. If you look at interest rates on a graph, there's a lot of peaks and valleys. It's never a straight line. But as indexes go up and down and margins that are attached to them stay the same, it looks something like this. Do you get the idea? Index will move up and down, margins stay the same. Okay, cool. The four most common indexes are coffee, the cost of funds index, CMT, constant maturity treasury, SOFR, the secured overnight financing rate, and then an old one, which you might see older loans that were tied to it, is the LIBOR, the London Interbank Offered Rate. Now, it was an index that was used through 2020, but it was done away with in 2021. So let's talk about a fully indexed rate. So at the time of an adjustment, what will happen is we'll look at the index, then we'll look at the margin, put the two together. That's your fully indexed rate. Really, really simple. So let's take a 1-year ARM with a margin of 1.25. And at the time of the adjustment, let's say the index is at 0.5. So now we have two numbers, 1.25 and 5. If you add the two together, when I say 5, I mean 0.5, not 5.0, I mean 0.50. Okay. If you add the two together, the 1.25 plus the 0.50, the fully indexed rate is 1.75. Just add the two together. It's very simple, very straightforward. On the exam that you're going to take, you'll have some math questions like that. Okay, next, ARMs generally have interest rate caps. Now, when you think of floors and you think of caps, you think of how low the rate could go, and you also on caps think of how high the rate could go. So interest rates caps were put into place to make sure that the borrower's interest rate never goes up more than a certain amount every time it adjusts. And there's three types of interest rate caps that exist on ARMs. 1, the first adjustment cap. 2, the subsequent adjustment cap. 3, the lifetime cap. Now let's make sure you understand those before we go on. If you're on a 3-1 ARM, it will be fixed for 3 years, and then at the first adjustment, that first number, it'll say how much an increase can be, in that first adjustment. Then if you look at the second of the three numbers, the second number is how much it could adjust, how often. So let's say it's a 1-year ARM, so it will adjust that much per year. And then we have a lifetime cap, and the lifetime cap is the highest that interest rate can go to over what it started at. Think of a hybrid car, and then you'll understand a hybrid arm. A hybrid car would work off of electricity and gas. A hybrid arm is fixed and adjustable. So you'll see them advertised as a 3-1, a 5-1, a 7-1, a 10-1, right? So they're a mix between that first number being fixed and then the last number being adjustable. So arms are fixed for a particular period of time. On a 3-1 arm, it'd be fixed for 3 years, and then it adjusts annually after that. 5-1 fixed for 5 years and adjustable, and then adjusted every year after that. Same with 7-7, same with 10. Now there are interest-only arms, and what that means is the borrower is just paying the interest, generally for a short period of time, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, and then they're going to have to pay off the remaining unpaid balance. Now this allows the borrower to have a smaller monthly payment for an initial period of time, and then after the interest-only period, the principal, the payment becomes due, and at some point in the future, that entire debt will need to be retired. There was an instrument that was very, very dangerous for the industry if you didn't really understand it. It was called a pay option arm, and the pay option arm had 4 different repayment options. One, a completely amortizing 30-year option, a 15-year option, an interest-only option, and a minimum payment option. Interest-only just barely covered the interest. The minimum payment was the most dangerous because it was the smallest payment, so borrowers concentrated on making the smallest payment possible, but it didn't even cover the interest, which means that the balance kept getting larger and larger and larger and larger. The borrower would make a payment every month and absolutely owe more than what they started. So ARMs, compared to fixed, would be the second most common product in the mortgage industry. They differ from fixed rate in a couple of different ways. So just like we said, fixed, the rate, the payment, the term is fixed. On an ARM, the interest rate is adjustable, the payment is going to change. I mean, there's a couple of moving parts to an ARM. An ARM is generally less expensive because it has a lower starting interest rate. And if you time it right, it could actually be less expensive over a more extended period of time if you feel that interest rates will get lower and lower and lower. But what if the borrower missed it? What if you missed it and the indexes actually go up, the borrower's interest rate goes up, their payments go up, and so you may have missed a golden opportunity. So some questions you should ask your borrower before suggesting an ARM is their income high enough? Or is their income likely to increase that if the interest rate goes up and their payments go up, can they still handle it? Will they be taking on other big debts like car or school tuition or weddings or college? I mean, these are some questions you should talk about. Ask, how long do you plan on staying in the home? So if they plan on selling soon, rising interest rates may not be that big of a problem because interest rates are not going to go sky high overnight. But if they plan on staying in the home over a longer period of time, you should be really having a heart-to-heart with your borrowers as to what are your plans? Do you plan on making additional payments? I mean, is there other income coming into the household? Will there be other ways that the home might be paid off sooner? I mean, just have these kind of conversations with them. Are ARMs really that common? They might be, depending on what happens to future interest rates, which nobody knows. Should I ever really recommend an ARM to a borrower? Depends on you and your borrower. What type of borrower should get an ARM? I mean, if you guys don't mind, let me share a very quick story. I did a loan for a gentleman that worked for Rolls-Royce. He went around the world doing repairs and maintenance and things like that for locations. He asked about an ARM. He wanted a 3-year ARM. I asked him why. He says, Dave, I'm not going to be here that long. I come in, I fix the plant, and then they transfer me to another location, say Australia or something. He said, the ARM will be a lower interest rate. 3 years is plenty of time. I'll get in, I'll fix the plant, and then I'm going to go. And so for somebody like that, a more sophisticated borrower, the ARM was perfect.